Whitehall. My name is Lori Coffey, and I'll be your host for about the next hour. I'm very happy to share my information with you, and if you have questions at the end of each room, feel free to raise your hand and get my attention. I'll be happy to answer them as I finish my discussion. And I want to welcome you to the beautiful campus. It is approximately 6 acres total. It has this building and around the corner, you head towards the water. There's also a beautiful pavilion. And inside that is the rail car that Mr. Plaza has been restored to the district car. And I highly recommend that you go there. It's not part of this tour, but it's part of your admission. Also, another way to get there, and you'll see when we go through, there's a gift shop that also has restrooms. And I'm going to point that out to you. And you can go out the doors near the gift shop, and it takes you out to the same location. The other thing I highly recommend is that we have a higher level floor. If you go up one floor, we have an elevator where I mentioned already. There's also the staircase, and the next level floor shows you the master bedroom and some of the beautiful bedrooms that are all decorated. You can see it. It's a self-guided tour. You can go at your own pace. There's also some other exhibits. Highly recommend them. You can just breeze through so you can get the full feel of the place. Also, if you're down near the pavilion, you can see the water. It's a beautiful vista. I highly recommend if you have time. You can also sit in the garden and enjoy yourself, get off your feet. Speaking of getting off your feet, we do have some places to sit right around here. Also, about halfway through the tour, there's a place we can sit so you can get off your feet. So, there's very few rules here except have fun, which I really want you to do and feel really good about how you spent your time. But also, there's only one, and that's to keep your hands. I do this to children, hands to yourself, but hands off the tables, chairs, walls, everything, because it's a very old building. The reason it's kept so well is because we really respect it. The oils in your hand, the germs, and things like that. We just really hope that you don't touch anything. I'll try to make it interesting. How many of you have been here before? Okay, one. Not too many. Okay. So I'm going to try to tell history, culture, and a little bit about the Flagler family and then where we are today. So that's sort of important. If you go back to the 1800s, how this whole story started is very interesting. Mr. Henry Flagler, who made his money in Standard Oil, and his probably 60th year, sadly his first wife was very ill, and the doctor suggested that she would do better in a warm climate. So he ventured to Florida. He actually went to St. Augustine and realized that wasn't even warm enough, and he found his way down this way. She sadly passed before she could see any of it, but he fell in love with Florida, but it's not the Florida we would know today. This area was picked, it was very Evergladesy, it was beautiful with grass and lawn and everything, but Mr. Flagler loved the outdoors and he loved the challenge. He had grown up very poor, he made his money in Standard Oil, and this was his love letter and gift to Florida. He is called the father of South Florida for this reason, because all the money he put into this was his own money. He bought this piece of property, but before that, he built 2 hotels. One hotel, if you would not look out in the parking lot and look to the left, there's some low-level buildings. In that area is where there was a huge hotel, and that hotel could have 1,600 people seated for dinner. The people who worked there literally rode a bicycle from one end of the property to the other. And then the second hotel, that's hotel Milan. The second hotel, if you were to go, you cannot see it, but imaginary, kind of go straight across here, it's the Breakers. What you see here is a Breakers Golf, but it's a beautiful campus. That hotel still exists. It's not exactly the same as at Mr. Flagler's days, but they were both built before this property. That hotel sadly burned down twice. It was called the Palm Beach Hotel, and it was rebuilt, and it's the beautiful Italian Renaissance hotel that you enjoy today. It's absolutely magnificent. It's also restored and renovated periodically, but it's a beautiful property if you ever get the opportunity. It's highly sought after. It's a great destination. So Mr. Flagler's vision to see this as a destination still exists today. That hotel was rebuilt in 1826, and this home was built in the early 1900s. He moved in 1901, 1902. It took 18 months to complete. If any of you know, no matter where you're from, 18 months to do anything is amazing. So you can imagine the work that went into getting this hotel built. Now, how did Mr. Flagler get here? This is a good introduction to his railroad and his vision. He had to get here. When I do student tours, I say there was no iPad, there was no emails, there were no cars. So it was just the beginning of time. He had his railroad. So he literally created a railroad from northern Florida that actually in due time went all the way to the Keys. And he built hotels along the way. So he had a vision, he knew what his plan was. The original railroad, this house was originally built, would have been about where this white building is, this condo building. But his wife decided that was too close. So he moved his railroad, probably to the bridge that's near him. So the railroad literally came down here with came with a personal rail car. But they also had to bring coal, they had to bring supplies, they had to bring building materials, and they also came to buy a boat. So building this is amazing. Now what you would have seen would have been more like another place, picture, which I'll show you inside. It wouldn't have been like this, but we definitely had a vision of how we wanted to. We wanted to be a palace. In that time, it cost about $4 million to build this home. That was the design. Carrier was one of the builders and the architects, and then the designers. So that was a combined bill of the design, the architect, and the building. He wanted it to look like a palace, so that's why you see these majestic Doric columns, the beautiful bronze door, and everywhere around you, you'll see signs of opulence, the Gilded Age, over the top. This was a period of huge exploration and expansion, and he had a real love for the arts and technology. Now, technology in terms of what we would talk about today. This was one of the first properties that had electric lights. Only 5% of the properties would have had electric lights at the time. This was a property that had indoor plumbing. This is a property that had a telephone. Interestingly, in the bathroom, if you go upstairs, you'll see it's in the master bathroom, which is kind of unusual, just saying. And it, like I said, it had some things that were very, very advanced for the time. So why do we call him the father of South Florida? He brought jobs, he brought agriculture, he brought industry and tourism that we still enjoy today, Florida Power and Light. He brought technology that they still use today, and fresh water, and some of the things that he brought with it. So the technology, that's the technology piece. Another part of this, and you'll see when we get inside this building, how it's lasted this long. It's stainless steel brick covered with stucco. And then that's amazing. So despite hurricanes and pests and all kinds of problems that come, it still survived today, the original building. Now yes, it's been changed and it's been restored. I call it has 3 chapters. The first chapter was the home. How many people do you think lived here of the family? Who would like to ask a question? Is that a trick question? 2, exactly. And a little dog, little Delos, their dog, which was, I'm sure, very pampered pet. German Spitz lived here with them. Now they brought them servants, they had some servants, and then they had guests and they had servants. So really this huge house really was the home for 2 people. Now the house was built as a wedding gift for his 3rd wife, Mary Lily. And I will tell you more about that because I got to hold you in suspense when we get into it. So that was the first chapter, was when he was very poor. We'll talk about that when we get inside. The second chapter is when he made his money in Standard Oil. He lived in New York, and then he found his way down here. And then in his later years, he was down here. Sadly, he and his wife didn't live very long in his house, only a few seasons. He died, then his wife died, and it went to a niece, and it became a hotel because the niece sold it because she was a young woman. She had multiple properties that she had gotten through the will of the family, and she just couldn't keep it up, so it became a hotel. And then the 3rd chapter is what we see today, is the beautiful museum that we had. It's a non-profit. It's very philanthropic to the area. We have school tours, we have events all the time. Almost every night there's music. There's programs, there's visiting speakers, there's artists in residence. It's a really dynamic place. And we really owe that to his legacy and the money that he put behind it. So the area to this day really benefits it. And the family is still very involved. They're on the board, you'll see them here, and they're very well respected. So there is a relationship with the Breakers, and so they are very influential, and really have, it's quite a legacy. So we kind of gave you an idea of what it would have been like, what he found, what his goal was. And so now that I've enticed you, please join me when I raise my hand. We're on the move. We're going to go inside to the main room. Some of you have already been in there, but I'm going to welcome you inside.
I was going to say that, but I just wanted to read the very
Aha, preko njega. Ама после имало е некој невреме, не знам кога е било тоа. Оригиналната железница што падна у водата, па после ги направат мостовите и сега како мостови. Оне тука живеало ствари, така ли? Тук се само
It's approximately 5,000 square feet. It's supposed to have a wow factor. I know many of you are already in here, so you had a chance to look around. Let's start with looking up. We went through the gorgeous doors that you see. You can still see the door open. You can see the middle of the door has a lion's head there. That's, again, a power play. It's supposed to evoke a feeling of strength and power. They were sending a definite message. This is supposed to be a wow factor. So the ceiling is built, the gold on it is called the gilding or the gilt of the ceiling. And they actually use actual gold leaf that comes on kind of thin parchment type paper. And you use your finger and a gentle tap of a paintbrush, and you hand apply it to the surface. It lasts a really long time, but it's very delicate to use, but it's certainly beautiful. So that's the ceiling, and then inside there is a portrait, really like an amazing portrait. So it's Apollo giving words of wisdom to the Delphi. So it's supposed to evoke the feeling of the arts and appreciation for history. The gods, the muses are in each corner. So you can see there's definitely influence of the arts because Mr. Flagler very much valued the arts. So you will see that influences through the entire place. The ceiling that's stunning, but as you move down the wall, it's marble, beautiful columns. You came up with this, see the beautiful staircase. At the time, if you were right here for an event, you might go upstairs and fix your eye, and you would come down with your maid and spouse. Moved in out, so it really quite an event. Parade out and beautiful stairs. Floor is marble. Students always ask me about that. Marble is very sturdy, but it's beautiful. They have 7 different types of marble. Some of it imported from Europe. We have no belief that the Flatlers ever went to Europe, but they certainly have the influence of the architecture and the decorations. This is a historic list of mansions, so it's very much recognized, and they're very proud of that. Half the furniture is original, half might represent what you might see at the time. Some things you can move around. I think there's some people here before, it's not always exactly the same. They do move things around in the exhibitions or just have holiday decorations and things like that. Some of the pieces that I might talk to you about is this beautiful table. It's marble, and you can see that the motif of the animals on the bottom, and very neat design. Also over my shoulder there is this beautiful Rococo gilt painted, full painted to look like these, and in the center are canvases that are been stenciled, so that it doesn't have a lot of weight, but it's really done well over, all the period of time. The color is all similar. Why this room is so well preserved. A couple things I want to point out that are worth noting is on the desk are some large books. One of those books is the Family Bible, and at the time, I always say there were no iPads and there was no county clerk, so you kept your records of your family, births, deaths, marriages, moving, things like that, in your Family Bible passed along. So we have the records of that. We also had a traveling desk that's over in that corner over there on that other desk, so he probably would have taken some things on a train back and forth. He had his little traveling desk, so he could probably work all the way. Probably not unusual to what you all do today. Other things I think are worth noting is some of the portraits in the room. So this is a good introduction to the family. You've already seen Mr. Flagler. Well, in this corner here, on the point, is a portrait of a gentleman with a bow tie on, and that is Mr. Flagler's father, Reverend Isaac Flagler. Reverend Isaac Flagler was in Hopewell, New York, where his wife, which was his third wife, they had one son, Mr. Flagler. They were a pretty poor family, even by that day. And Mr. Flagler, when he was 14 years old, realized there wasn't enough money to even food for him. So it was a family decision to send him away to find work. So he finished his school. That wasn't so unusual because boys did go to work early, but he was sent away to go with his mother's family. He left, can you imagine sending a 14-year-old away to another state? He made it, and he had like a little bit of money and a savings, and he made it. And he went to live with the Harkness family, and he worked in their shop, which was a grain business, like a storefront, kind of and he lived there, a room and board. So he lived in the back of the shop. He wrapped himself in packing materials and shaved warm, and he only made $5 a month. So again, he was poor, but at least he had a job and had food. But this is a very important time for him too. One is that he was interacting with his colleague that would later become a business partner in the state of the world. He also learned about business, and he also managed his department. There was also a second sister that only lived to be age 3, and we don't have a picture of her. But the third child, it's right in front of the beautiful chandelier, but you can do a peek around. That is Henry, they also called him Harry Harkness. That was your third child, your boy, that did live into adulthood. Now, Mr. Flagler, Henry, he lived most of his life in New York, and his passion was music, and he did not really want to go into the family business, but was very philanthropic and helped start the New York Philharmonic. But I think one of the most important things about him is he had 3 daughters, of which the third daughter is the woman who literally saved this place. She bought the place when it was going to be demolished, and I'm going to talk more about that. So now you've met the family. Someone's going to ding, so it's always kind of fun. So these are the family members, and this was his office where he did business, and, you know, it's supposed to have a wow factor. He surrounded himself with things he loved, his family, his art, and the art had no real relationship to each other, it's just things he liked. There's only one thing I'm going to point out to you that has significance to me because it kind of tells a story. And the art on the wall is this picture here is from Pleasant Valley. Very important portrait, and they all are sort of perfectly aligned. So the largest portrait on this wall here is that would have been Mr. Flagler's third wife, Mary Lily Keenan. She was from North Carolina. She was 37 years his junior. Again, I mentioned third wife. They never had any children. They lived here with their dog, which I already mentioned earlier in the talk. She was very well educated, which was unusual for the time. Women didn't have the opportunities, but she came from a wealthy family, and her family sent her to Peace College where she studied music. We are told that she also had a beautiful voice and played instruments. So we know that she would have this space to entertain her guests. One of the things that are noteworthy in that beautiful portrait is around her neck is a 5 foot, so I'm over 5 foot, but probably almost my height, length of not culture pearls, but match pearls with a beautiful Tiffany pearls, with a beautiful clasp of diamonds, and then a beautiful ring on her finger. Now, those were just 2 of her wedding gifts because Mr. Flagler, gave her the deed to the house, Standard Oil stock, and over $1 million. That was unusual for the time. But obviously he wanted her to have the freedom that he obviously loved her. He supposedly was a very happy marriage, they entertained, and this house was full of music, which is a great way to introduce musical instruments. So during the time of the Flaglers in the high season, they would have guests, and they had, I call it artist in residence, that's a today term. They hired a gentleman who was a young man named Mr. Spalding, and he lived here with them, and he played music whenever they asked, sort of on demand. He played concerts and after dinner, maybe in the afternoon. But we were very lucky about this because Mr. Spalding wrote long letters to his mother almost every day, telling who was here, what he did, what they ate. So we have a great history of what goes on during the time. The musical instruments that are significant, you can't miss them, are behind me or to the side of me. This over 1,200 pipe organ, which is still active today. Most of the things are underground, but it's definitely active, and we have concerts all the time. Then there's an upright Steinway piano and a player piano. So again, they get used, and people really enjoy them. Also, one more thing I mentioned about the chandeliers earlier in the talk, but these chandeliers are probably the biggest in the place, and each one weighs over 2,000 pounds. I always say I really wouldn't want to clean it, but it's quite something. So again, very, very special. This is a great place because it's a little bit smaller, narrower space. As I said, I would tell you that right And in front of me, those, you see the grills for how the heat would have come in. And then as we go out the door, you can easily see the thermostat. And then the students always like this one. There was a bell. What do you think the bell is for? Call your servants. Yeah, so each room has a bell. The servants were mostly on the third floor. They brought servants with them, and then they probably had some locals to support, for their events. But certainly a beautiful space, full of laughter and music, and that's pretty special. We're going to go out this door. It's just a small step down, and we're going to go to the left. So please, if you will, follow me.
I don't think so either. So now what do I do? Let everybody go through.
Sorry.
You need to go around.
Well, just a comment, my wife, as you can see, when she comes around, is in a motorized wheelchair.
She's coming now.
If we have a step like that, this time she had to go all the way around.
Okay.
So just give her a chance if there's a step.
Absolutely. I hope there's not any.
She's here. She's on the way.
Okay. Did she hear what I said mostly?
Did you hear what
No.
she said?
That's okay.
No.
She did. All right. I will, at the end, I will give you your own private. No problem. We're going to go straight ahead. And actually, this room is set up differently. I was here yesterday, so like I said, things get moved around. But welcome to the Grand Ballroom.
Видео в мой прайме. Abi vies tu bai pasitram. Sente praf red devia se place de vtoret red.
All right, as y'all get settled in, welcome to the Grand Ballroom. I always like to start this with a kind of an interesting story. So, you're in Lily, as we get online, and we have recently achieved some breakers in some beautiful houses in Corporate Island. All they have in the connection to the school. there's some really special things about this space. One of them is, in the 1980s, this room was actually used for the high school proms. So can you imagine coming here for your high school prom? We don't do that anymore, but they do have events and weddings here all the time. So it is a very, very special space. I call it the mezzanine, which is a term for a space in between two levels. If you look to your right, there's a gold, beautiful enhancement in the middle. That actually slides out, and behind there, if they don't want to be seen, there were stairs to take the musicians up, and the musicians would play all night long. So you could be dancing and enjoying your time. Other things of interest, they did not have air conditioning, like I mentioned, so these doors, which go around the whole room, would have been opened to a beautiful courtyard, which is behind us, and on this side, it would have been Lake Worth, so that would have been a water view. So you not only have a beautiful view, you go out and cool off and talk to your friends, they actually have more parties out there, and they have a fountain, and it's quite pretty, and they have carpets, and it's lovely. They also have the benches, so you can ski and be seen. Other things that are of interest, they had party favors. So both the men and the women who were guests would receive party favors. It might be a perfume or something. So that was a great opportunity to get something that you could show up to your friends. Oh, I got this party favor, where did you do that? And that's all that. The ladies would have worn probably dresses that were about 25 pounds in weight because they had bone and metal in their dresses. They would literally like tie them up in the back to have a small waist or have a enhancement of your body, and so as you danced, you would have a beautiful dress. And students always ask me, why would they do that? Well, that was the fashion of the time. Also the fashion of the time, there's a picture here, and on the way out you can see, they would wear what they call bald and padre. They have white, they're not even really hair, but anyway, they had these white wigs on their head, and they would be powdered wigs, and that was just like fashion of the time. The family was very patriotic, so they had patriotic balls like for Washington's birthday, and this would be the height of the season to come to these balls. They'd have refreshments, Canadians, reality time, so very, very fancy balls. Other thing I think is very interesting is Mrs. Black wanted everyone to know the current dance steps. So she made sure that if you wanted to come earlier in the day, you could have dance lessons, so you would be up to date and roll and fancy dance steps. So I think that's kind of interesting too. So this is really quite a special space. Again, very beautiful. Like I said, all the original furniture, these benches, but this room is used, like I said, it was definitely different yesterday, so we use it for events here all the time. Anyone have any questions while you're sitting comfortably before I get you up? I guess two, this lady.
So, at the time, how much of a population was around?
No, there was population because people would come to those hotels. Now, you maybe didn't get to stay with the Flaggers, but you might be one of the two hotels. And this room could accommodate 200, 250 people. And we were reports that they had events all the time. And I'm going to get into that when we get to one of the other rooms, because how you would get invited was very prescribed. And as like you saw, like Downton Abbey or some of these Gilded Age stories, like who invited you and how you got to come was a big deal. Because she was everyone wanted to come to this, everyone wanted to be invited. So they would have events all the time.
This is pretty far.
It is far, but you would come down for the season, and you would stay in these hotels because you would get away. If you wanted the warm, you wanted to get into the warm, beautiful areas. You might come for the season with your maids and your trunks and everything, and then stay. Only a small part of the population that they came, and then they summer in Newport, and they in the city in New York. So they have, actually the Flaggers and other homes too. This is not their own home. So imagine this home for 2 months a year. That's
They had a house in Rhode Island.
not to my knowledge that they went around. I don't think they had a house because their main
No
house
vody
was
z leva.
in New York, and then that no longer exists. But there were other houses in New York too. I think it was more on Long Island, and that's what some of these houses went to this niece. So this niece that got this did not just get one; she got more than one. So that's why she was unmarried and young. Sir?
Do you have any idea which house was built first, this one or built more? We are noticing quite a difference in the interior decoration between this house and Biltmore. This one is much more ornate.
Park, right?
I guess that's
Yes.
one way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, so I have been to the Biltmore, so I know what you're talking about. And that was much more oriented to like the men's. I think it's much more masculine in its feel. I don't know the date, I'm sure I can look it up.
Well,
You can look it up, but definitely, you're absolutely right. If I've been to both places, and this place is much more ornate, much more Florida. And that's much more campy. To me, I call campy meaning outdoorsy, dark. I thought that was very dark, just to let you know. It's very dark, you know,
I didn't
smaller
know.
rooms.
I didn't know if it was because of the time frame or something else.
Yeah, and honestly, I could say, I could come up with an answer, and you might even say that's okay. It may be the architect they picked.
Right.
Again, I think he really did reflect more the weather, the way they laid out the place, and I'm just telling you why with the doors and things opening for ventilation, the location he picked up the water, you're really close by on the water both sides. I think the location, the railroad, like I always wonder, in Aspen, is why do you pick Eastern versus the other coast? So there were reasons, I think, logistics, when how he built the railroad too. So I think that all goes along with it, because he built this railroad that went all the way to Keys. And he built many hotels, not just the two. Now, I am thinking out loud that we might do better for you if I take you out this door. So I'm going to tell you, I always tell the students love this sunscreen. There's a hidden door here, and he loves hidden doors. But it goes out to the hall, and I think that might just be less up and down. And you're not really missing much, but what I will tell you what you're missing, but I just think